Hi, my name's Claire. This is my travel channel, Claire's Footsteps, and this video is all about Malta. In this video, I'm going to discuss the 10 things that I wish I'd known before travelling to Malta. Malta is a tiny island nation sitting just south of Sicily in Europe. It's a completely independent country, but it is one of the smallest countries in the world. I recently visited Malta twice on 2 separate trips. There were 2 specific events that I was in Malta for. So I've spent 2 weeks there in the last month or so. And I've put together this list of things that I wish I'd known before travelling to Malta. So if you're visiting Malta this year, this video should help you plan your trip and make sure that you don't miss out on anything and that you travel the country in the most effective way. So let's dig into the 10 things that I wish I'd known before travelling Malta. So the first thing that I wish I'd got a proper grasp on before I went to Malta is just how small it is. Malta is a tiny island nation. In fact, it's one of the smallest countries in the world. In fact, it's 316 kilometers squared, and you can quite easily get from pretty much any point to any other point within an hour if you're driving around Malta. This means that it's really easy to get out and explore, but despite its small size, Malta is packed with things to do. From historical attractions, nature, beaches, hikes, culture, food. The tourist board slogan is literally #more to explore, and I really don't think you'll run out of things to do here. To get around Malta, I recommend using Bolt. This is a ride-hailing taxi app that works very similar to Uber. Uber also operates in Malta, but I did find Bolt to be more affordable and just more efficient than Uber. Plus, I prefer Bolt as a company. In areas like Salima and St Julian's, our Bolts literally arrived within seconds. Quite often we were up in the hotel room, ordered a Bolt, and it was just there and we had to run down. Other times I ordered a Bolt and the Bolt was at the traffic lights that were just right in front of me, so I literally just ordered it and then it pulled up like 5 seconds later. I don't think I've ever actually been somewhere where Bolts worked that well before. One thing to be mindful of though, when you're travelling around the island, is that Malta has a lot of traffic. It's one of the most car-friendly nations in the world, with nearly 1 car for every person, and during rush hours especially, it can be absolutely heaving. This is something to be especially considerate of if you're visiting in the high season, which is the Maltese summer, which runs from June to August. Another way to get around Malta is to hire a car, which is very popular with tourists in the island. One thing that's good to know if you're travelling to Malta is that they drive on the left, similar to the UK, India, Australia, New Zealand, but different to the rest of Europe and the US. If you're used to driving on the right hand side, make sure that you pay extra attention when driving in Malta to make sure that you don't get in any accidents, especially with all that traffic. If you don't want to get taxis or hire a car, then another good thing to know before you go to Malta is that there is an excellent bus network. The bus network covers pretty much the whole island, and it costs €2 for a journey on any bus. The journey can take up to 2 hours, and you can change however many times you'd like to in that 2-hour period. This means that if you want to get a bus from one side of the island to another and you need to change twice, it will still only cost you €2 as long as it takes you less than 2 hours, which, unless the traffic's really bad, it shouldn't take you any longer than that. For example, I took a bus from the Blue Grotto on the south side of the island back to Salima where I was staying. I changed in Valletta and the journey took me about 1 hour and 10 minutes in total. Because it was less than 2 hours, I did it all on the same €2 bus ticket. Another thing that I wish I'd known about Malta before I visited is that Valletta, its capital, is very different to other European capitals. Valletta is the smallest capital in the EU, and honestly, it's really tiny. It's what other old cities look like in other cities in Europe, if that makes sense. It's a really historic city. It's like walking through a museum, and it's really beautiful and definitely worth at least one of your days there. But you don't really need to stay in Valletta. It's not really central to other attractions in the island. The airport isn't in Valletta, it's just called Malta Airport, and it's about a 30-40 minute drive from Valletta, so there's really no need to base yourself in Valletta. Something else that's really worth knowing about Malta is that you can eat cheap by buying pistazzi and other savoury baked goods. Now, while this isn't the healthiest way to eat in Malta, it's definitely the cheapest. Malta is known for its delicious pistazzi, a savoury pastry filled with cheese or mushy peas. You can find pistazzerias all over the island, and they're incredibly cheap, making them the perfect snack or meal to go. Other baked goods include fitara, which is a flat pizza, and cassatas, which are pastries with thicker crusts. Pistazzis are made with flakier pastry, which personally I prefer. If you don't want to eat the pastries, there's so many food options in Malta. They have food from all around the world, and Maltese food is a lovely blend of Italian and Middle Eastern cuisines, so you'll definitely find something to enjoy while you're in Malta. You can get a pizza for around 10 to 12 euros, and mains come in anything between 9 and 15 euros. If you're interested in the different costs of travelling in Malta, I definitely recommend checking out my How Much Does It Cost to Travel in Malta video, where I pretty much break down everything that I spent while I was there. Another useful thing to know about Malta is that English is very widely spoken. Malta actually has 2 official languages, Maltese and English, and children learn English at a very young age. Because a lot of people in Malta work in the tourist industry, and because a lot of people living in Malta aren't Maltese, English is spoken nearly daily by pretty much everyone on the island. Of course, Maltese people will always appreciate if you say a few words in Maltese as well, so you could always say grazie hefna when you want to say thank you. Another thing that's worth knowing about Malta, and that I'd definitely change if I did my trip again, is it's worth going to Gozo for more than a day trip. We just did a day trip to Gozo, which included a stop in Camino at the Blue Lagoon as well. So it ended up being quite a rush day, and I really don't think we saw the best of Gozo. Gozo is Malta's sister island, and it's just a short ferry ride away. While Malta has plenty to offer, Gozo is more of a laid-back destination. There's so much to do here, from exploring the capital Victoria, to going quad biking, to basking on the most deserted beaches, but I definitely think it's worth spending at least a couple of days so you can stay in a local guest house and enjoy the island life at a more relaxed pace. Malta also has the best scuba diving in Europe, and if you're a keen scuba diver, it's definitely worth checking this out while you're on the island. The island is surrounded by crystal clear waters and offers some of the best wreck dives in Europe. It also has some impressive reef with colourful fish and beautiful natural features. You can dive in Malta as a total beginner and just do a discover dive, which will take you to 8 metres. Alternatively, you can do one of your courses there, either open water diver or advanced open water diver, or you can do dives to 15 metres if you've got your open water licence, 30 metres if you've got your advanced licence, or if you're a really hardcore scuba diver, you can do tech dives that go down to 100 metres and more. One thing I really would recommend if you're diving in Malta is to try and do 2 to 3 days of diving at least. There's so much to explore, and you can definitely go to lots of different sites in that time. In fact, I think you could spend a few weeks diving and still be going to new sites all the time. The reason I suggest this is because if you're used to diving in tropical waters, your buoyancy might be a bit different in the Mediterranean waters around Malta. And it might take you a bit of time to adjust it and get it right so you've got that neutral buoyancy. So if you have a few days to dive, then you can spend the first couple of dives adjusting that, making sure it's right, and then the next few dives will just be absolute bliss, where you can be perfectly buoyant and just enjoy the dive. Finally, something that I wish I'd thought about when I was planning my trips to Malta, although to be honest, I'm not that sure if I would have been able to do it, but is that you can actually access Malta from continental Europe by boat. A ferry leaves Sicily, I think every day, and takes a few hours to cross the channel to Malta. It's really not that far. Obviously from Sicily you have to get to mainland Italy. There is a ferry that does this, so you can take a train from Naples to Palermo, I think, and the train goes on the ferry, which sounds really cool. And then obviously from mainland Italy you can get to anywhere else in continental Europe. I really like travelling overland. I don't really like flying, so this is something that I kind of wish I thought of, because I think it would have been really cool to overland to Malta, but I guess that'll just be something that I'll have to think about next time. So I hope you've enjoyed these things that I wish I'd known when travelling to Malta, and I hope they've given you some useful tips to think about for your next trip to this beautiful sun-soaked Mediterranean island. I'll be posting a video all about my diving experience in Malta next time, so do stay tuned for that, and I will see you there then. Thanks for watching. Bye!